It's Moxie time.
Moxie means it's time to fly Breeze. Moxie is the call sign for Breeze, and I'm back at the Westchester County Airport getting ready for my flight down to Vero Beach, Florida tonight, and I'm thrilled to know that out on Long Island, someone is going to control my flight southbound. But before the air fun begins, it's time to make the most out of my time on the ground here at HPN. Why wait downstairs at the gate when there's no view? Up here in the observation lounge, I can see that runway 16 is the departure runway, and departing aircraft are following the departure procedure of turning right after takeoff, like this one in the distance about to zoom by. Wow. With runway 16 being the longer runway, it's also being used by multiple arrivals. Now, my dad is up here with me, but he's not flying, but he's equally excited about the view on takeoff. Listen to him talk to me as I film.
Great visibility today. I might look out tonight.
We love it up here in the observation lounge, and we also love being in the sky. Once I take off, I never know how the controller will turn us, but I do know that I'm
Looking at a pretty standard departure tonight with radar vectors to white as usual.
After turning right to 320 degrees after passing 800 feet in our climb, the thing that I don't know is when the controller will issue a left-hand turn to head to the south, and will that turn give me the view that I want tonight? Time will tell.
Now, our departure out of Westchester today is looking really, really good. The weather is perfect. Of course, I've got my strategic seat on the left-hand side of the aircraft for the Manhattan view, provided that the controller keeps us west or near the Hudson River, going down to the white intersection. Can't wait for that. And then the weather's a little bit iffy down in Florida. There's scattered thunderstorms all over the place, so let's see what happens once we get down there.
It's time for me to head on down to the gate, but knowing there's no dinner on board, I'm looking for something fresh to eat. So I bought a pizza pre-TSA and brought it to the airside.
This does not look very good at all. So I normally don't post about the food that I eat, but I did get this pizza and it's just absolutely inedible. I tried to break it apart along the lines and it's basically frozen solid and completely unedible. This is literally the worst pizza that stuck to it that I've ever had. I'm not gonna eat it.
It's going in the garbage. Making matters worse is this dirty window.
All right, I'm just gonna head into the convenience store here at the airport because that was literally the worst pizza I ever had. I bought it pre-security, brought it through TSA, thought I'd have it here, but just couldn't eat it.
It's mostly snack items here. It's disappointing because I paid for a hot meal and I could not eat it. What should I get?
All right, I didn't see any hot food available, so ice cream tonight for dinner. I do like ice cream. Not bad.
The ice cream was my consolation for this view. Yes, I know there's sun, but the window is just not clean enough for someone who seeks outward-facing views at airports. This is my Breeze A220, and it's a struggle to see it.
All right, looks like this is going to be the gate here today. Gate 4. There's no sign indicating where our flight is. I'm just basically looking for my aircraft, seeing which gate it went to see where to go. But we're boarding in about 10 minutes or so, and there's not one sign indicating that Breeze is departing from any gate right now. So it's kind of strange today.
Here you can see the Breeze flight doesn't show any gate.
All right, so I've just taken a seat over here by gate number 4. I can just only assume it's the Breeze flight because the Breeze aircraft is parked out there, but still there's no indication at all. So they just made an announcement about 10 minutes after the scheduled boarding time that we're going to be at gate number 4, and the gate area is just filling up with people. It's a dead end at the end over there. Yeah, things are just not going as smooth as they normally would be going today, but it is what it is.
Today's aircraft is November 223 Bravo Zulu, and I'm hoping for amazing radar vectors tonight. Let's get on board.
Hey, departure control, can you give us really good vectors so we can see Manhattan tonight? Just kidding, I don't have their phone number. I'm just hoping for a good view tonight.
Okay, it's time to get on the plane and take my seat on the left side of the plane.
I made it aboard Moxie 581, and this problem is happening again. I'm paying for a window. I'm not paying for a seat. And there's these markings on the window that is extremely frustrating. I'm going to do my best to try to film out the window, the little spaces between them, but this is something that really needs to be addressed. This is a brand new aircraft.
Well, I managed to find a small portion of the window where the markings were minimal, but holding the camera up to that exact position was a challenge for me. I always try to film out as much as possible.
All right, I'm trying to make the most out of it. The pizza wasn't good, and this is really bothering me, but let's head on over to VRB. Today's departure runway should be runway 16.
Guys, I'm trying hard now through the small, clearer area of the window. It's now time for some action. Our door is closed, and we're ready to push back, so our pilot calls Westchester Ground Control for pushback clearance.
ground, Moxie 581, ready for pushback, gate 4.
581, pushback on Alpha approved.
Pushback on Alpha approved, Moxie 581.
Pushback here from the airline terminal requires FAA clearance since you have to push back onto taxiway Alpha. There's no more ramp space behind the parked aircraft, so the ground controller can only approve pushback once it's assured that he doesn't have any aircraft taxiing on Alpha. If a plane calls ground now and needs to use taxiway Alpha, the plane will have to wait for us to get out of the way. That'll be in about 5 minutes from now. As we push, I want to talk about New York Approach Control. New York Approach Control is also known as the New York TRACON, or New York Terminal Radar Approach Control, or N90, is the facility that we'll be handed off to once we're airborne. Today's departure will feature the complexity of the facility. Once we take off, we'll talk to New York Approach Control, specifically a departure controller at New York Approach Control that handles northern New York City airspace, which makes sense since we're north of New York City. Then we'll talk to, at the same facility, another controller who handles LaGuardia departures, since we'll be subsequently flying through LaGuardia's departure airspace. Now, below that is another frequency at the TRACON used for LaGuardia arrivals, and we'll actually be listening into that frequency even though we won't be on it. Why? Well, because LaGuardia arrivals are landing at runway 22 with right traffic this evening, so we'll be able to see them, so why not listen into them as well? This is a very ATC-heavy video, and for now, it's time to check back in with the ground controller because we're ready to start our taxi now that the tug has been removed and the engines have been started.
Westchester ground, Moxie 581, ready taxi with information, Juliet.
Moxie 581, runway 16, taxi via Alpha.
16 via Alpha, Moxie 581.
We're already on Alpha, and it's Alpha that we use to get to runway 16. Our tug has already positioned us so that we're headed in the direction of taxi that we need to go in to get to the runway, northwest. Once we turn onto the runway, we'll head southwest. Remember that once we pass 800 feet on the climb, we will turn right to 320 degrees. It's a near U-turn. That points us to the northwest, and we'll climb to 3,000 feet and wait for the controller to turn us to the south so that we can head towards White, our initial departure fix in New Jersey, which is on the way to Florida. By the way, although I didn't capture it, I believe that our pilot requested 5,000 feet as our initial altitude to climb to, but you'll hear that once the tower is ready to give us takeoff clearance, 5,000 feet was not approved, and we'll have to climb initially to 3,000 feet, the published assigned altitude. This is 1,000 feet below arrivals to LaGuardia from the north at 4,000 feet. The LaGuardia arrivals from the south could potentially fly as far north as White Plains, but they'd also be as 4,000 feet on their right base leg, and they'll get lower as they near runway 22. Once we check in with the departure controller, we'll be given higher, as there will be no aircraft in the airspace. And we'll be given takeoff clearance today without even being told up to line up and wait. Traffic is really light. I'm still upset about my window situation, but I'll manage. Now that we're getting close to the runway, it's time to get familiar with the arrival situation at LaGuardia. So let's tune into New York Approach Control for LaGuardia arrivals for a moment to gauge how busy they are.
Follow the traffic, cleared visual approach on May 22.
Follow them, cleared visual, 22, break air 6646.
Endeavor 5154, cross Yeoman at or above 3,000, cleared Alice May 22, approach, reduce speed at 210.
Speed 210, cross Yeoman at or above 3,000, clear the ILS 22, approach there 5154.
Breakout 5675, reduce speed 180.
180 knots, breakout 675.
Breakout 5646, connect with Woody Tower.
Woody Tower, good night.
Okay, we know LaGuardia is busy, so there should be a lot to see once we fly south. For us, it's now time for takeoff clearance from Westchester Tower.
Moxie 581, Westchester Tower, unable to do anything other than 5,000, but you can request higher once you get up in the air. Wind 200 at 5, runway, correction, you can get 3,000. Fly the Westchester 8 up to 3,000. Runway 16, clear for takeoff.
All right, on the Westchester 8, we'll climb maintain 3,000. We are clear for takeoff, runway 16, Moxie 581.
We are cleared for takeoff, and in the background I'm playing LaGuardia Approach Control just to keep the airspace situational awareness going. Again, the controller told us that we can only climb to 3,000 feet. Now, let's go back to LaGuardia Approach Control for a second and listen to this specific Delta flight.
Approach on 2346, Hudson northbound, level 4,000.
Delta 2346, New York approach, roger.
Now, let's keep Delta 2346 in mind. It's flying northbound up the Hudson, and we will see it as we fly southbound tonight. Arrivals from the south to LaGuardia will be flying up the Hudson River and will make right turns over Westchester County to land on runway 22. This keeps LaGuardia arrivals away from LaGuardia departures, which are taking off to the east on runway 13. Here's one more transmission to Delta 2346.
Delta 2346, New York approach, maintain 210 knots.
Okay, I want you to listen very carefully to non-ATC sounds now. Did you hear that? I'll play it again. A woman in the seat in front of me screamed, and I got startled, and I hit the stop recording button. Apparently, she was watching something on her phone that scared her and let out that sound. That sure was odd. In any case, a few seconds later, I resumed recording. As we accelerate down the runway, we're again listening into LaGuardia approach control.
Inside JetBlue 1962.
JetBlue 1962, follow the CRJ, cleared visual approach on May 22.
Follow the CRJ, clear the visual 22, JetBlue 1962.
United 2180, flooding 050.
Heading 050.
Remember that once we reach 800 feet, we're going to start our right-hand turn on our own without any instructions from the controller because it's published. It's now time for Westchester Tower to hand us off to New York Departure Control.
Moxie 581, contact departure.
Departure, Moxie 581.
Now, the Westchester Departure Controller who we're about to talk with is in the same building as the LaGuardia Approach Controller. Let's check in.
Departure, Moxie 581, 1400, climbing 3000.
Moxie 581, new departure, radar contact, climb and maintain 7,000.
Climb 7,000, Moxie 581.
Okay, good news. We're cleared to 7,000 feet, which is 2,000 feet higher than what we wanted, and we're turning to the 320-degree heading. Let's resume listening into the New York Approach Controller for LaGuardia at the New York TRACON. Specifically, let's listen again to Delta 2346, the plane that we will see soon.
Delta 2346, reduce speed of 180.
About 100 knots,
Recap 8716, maintain 180 knots, work radar till Greco, contact to 40 top, 18.7.
You're better to Greco over to tower, have a nice night, Brickyard 5716.
Bud, Brickyard 4803, reduce speed 210.
Reduce speed 210, Brickyard 4803.
Did you hear Brickyard 4803? That's another flight that we'll be seeing on the downwind leg to runway 22. It was told to reduce speed to fit into the sequence of the many planes flying to LaGuardia. The LaGuardia airspace is a lot busier than our airspace here in the Westchester sector. Our controller on our frequency also handles arrivals to Westchester Airport, but there's no one else on the frequency. As we continue our very wide turn, we can begin to see the Hudson River in the distance. It's my hope that when we fly southbound, we stay as far west as possible of the Hudson so that we can see Manhattan. Right now, if you look very carefully, you can see the sun illuminating One World Trade Center as we can make out some of the tall skyscrapers of Manhattan from here as we fly over the city of White Plains below. The Westchester controller is now going to tell us to turn to 260 degrees. He'll also switch us over to the LaGuardia departure controller on 120.4.
581, turn left heading 260, contact departure 120.4.
Left heading 260, 120.4, Moxie 581. Good day.
Hey.
Oh, look, we can already see some of the LaGuardia arrivals coming in up the Hudson. Let's check in with LaGuardia Departure Control.
New York, Moxie 581, 4700, climbing 7,000, left turn to heading 260.
Moxie 581, New York departure, fly heading 220, climb maintain 12,000.
Fly heading 220, climb to 12,000, Moxie 581.
We're going to continue our turn to 220 degrees toward White, and judging from where we are now, 220 degrees will keep us just west of the Hudson River, allowing for amazing New York City and Manhattan views, as well as the downwind and base leg arrival path to LaGuardia. This is turning out to be a spectacular flight. Now, remember, we're now on the LaGuardia departure frequency, so we're going to hear our controller tell a LaGuardia departure, Southwest 1971, to turn, and based upon that turn to the northwest, where we are, we should be able to see that plane as well soon.
Southwest 1971, turn left heading 310.
Left turn 310, Southwest 1971.
Let's switch back to LaGuardia Approach Control. The approach controller is going to issue Delta 2346 a series of right turns as it's time for the base leg to runway 22 over Lower Westchester. We'll see it soon. And Spirit 1093 will be told to reduce speed. We will also be seeing that Spirit flight soon.
Delta 2346, turn right heading 120.
Alright, heading 120, plan to 46.
Spirit wings 1093, reduce speed at 210. Delta 2346, turn right heading 130.
Turn heading 130 on Delta 2046.
There's a lot going on here, but our first task is to see Delta 2346. It was
United
previously
2180,
flying right
40
towards
south.
us, but it's currently making a right turn for a base leg to runway 22. Oh, I see it. Here it is, flying over the Yonkers and Mount Vernon area just north of the Bronx. The next step is for this airplane to get cleared for a visual approach to runway 22 by following traffic ahead in its 1 o'clock position, which is a United Boeing 737.
Delta 2346, traffic to follow, 1 o'clock and 3, turning straight in at 2, a United Boeing 737.
Traffic inside, Delta 2346.
Delta 2346, roger, have a turn for you in just a moment to follow them.
We're about to see Brickyard 4803 on the downwind leg to runway 22. It's the next arrival, and we can see it here flying over Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx. The LaGuardia approach controller is now going to clear this plane down to 2,000 feet.
Brickyard 4803, descend maintain 2000.
Maintain 2000, Brickyard 4803.
What a great view of the Bronx down there. Back on our frequency, the Southwest flight that we heard earlier will be clearing our flight, and the controller will climb it to 15,000 feet. As we hear it, you'll see the plane moving from the right to the left at the top of the screen.
Southwest 1971, climb maintain 15,000.
15,000, Southwest 1971.
That's LaGuardia under the wing, and we're now over New Jersey and can see Upper Manhattan at the bottom of the screen. We're set up to see all of Manhattan tonight, but let's focus on the next arrival on LaGuardia's downwind, Spirit 1093. The controller will issue it a 50-degree heading and clearance down to 3,000 feet. You'll see it at the bottom of the screen as soon as the approach controller speaks. You can't miss a yellow Spirit plane. Make sure you check out my video where I flew on one.
Spirit wings 1093, fly heading 050, descend maintain 3000.
050 down to 3,000, 1093.
Oh, how I love watching that yellow plane go up the Hudson with the accompanying view of Manhattan. Now, back to us on our frequency. Our controller is about to point out traffic to us. Unfortunately, it'll be in our 1 o'clock position, which is off to our right, so we won't be able to see it, but our pilots will be looking out for it. The plane will be 4 miles away and 1,500 feet above our current altitude.
Mach 581, traffic, 1 o'clock, 4 eastbound, altitude indicates 13,500.
Look at Moxie 581.
Our pilot never reported the traffic in sight, but the controller came back saying that the traffic was no factor, and it's now time to switch to yet another departure frequency for flights at a higher altitude below center's airspace while heading to the south. Let's get that handoff.
Moxie 581, traffic no factor, contact departure 120.85.
12085, Moxie 581, good night.
We've been handed off to the next TRACON controller in the same facility. That's our third TRACON controller that's in the same building. Unfortunately, I don't have that audio, but we can still enjoy this spectacular view of Manhattan while it lasts. We're starting a right turn followed by a left turn. These are going to be delay vectors to white, our initial departure fix. I wasn't expecting this because we got pretty quick clearance to our 220-degree heading, but the next controller is likely seeing that there's other traffic headed to white that's ahead of us. So a turn to the right and then a turn to the left increases spacing between us and whoever's ahead of us. Unfortunately, the white intersection is shared by many airports in the region as an initial departure fix, so there could be planes from other airports like LaGuardia or Newark that took off just ahead of us, and we're just too close to them. ATC needs to ensure sufficient separation between planes going to the same departure fix. I'm happy that these delay vectors are happening now. I've been in circumstances where they have happened over Westchester County, and that can often restrict the New York City views because we wind up making some S-turns over Westchester and the Bronx, and that can sometimes lead to an undesirable heading leading to less than ideal views. Today, we're widening it out over New Jersey. I've been here before, and I can enjoy the New Jersey views from up here. You never know what to expect. Once we're clear of arrivals to JFK coming in from the west at 13,000 feet above us, the current controller will clear us up to 17,000 feet, which is the ceiling of the New York TRACON. We've worked with 3 separate controllers to get us out of the New York TRACON airspace, and once we're out of here, we'll be handed off to the New York Air Route Traffic Control Center, which, like the TRACON, is also physically located on Long Island. It's a bit further out, however, in Suffolk County. Like the New York TRACON, we'll speak to a few New York Center controllers before being handed it off to several controllers in the next center, the Washington Air Route Traffic Control Center. After that, it's a series of controllers in the Jacksonville and Miami centers. That's Manhattan down over there. Really, really great radar vectors to white tonight. Thank you, New York TRACON. We're now in the turn to white, which is located over Pine Lake Park, New Jersey. We'll be following the Jersey Shore southbound to get there. This has been the standard path for flights from the big New York City airports for decades, but it's not the path for JFK departures down south. They spend their climb over the water before joining up with other flights. All right, it really wasn't that bad with the scratches on the window because the sun was on the other side of the aircraft, providing some really nice
lighting for the New York City area. It's probably going to get a little bit more difficult as the sun sets. Let's move forward with this flight.
I always love the view of the Jersey Shore as we head southbound toward White. We're now being controlled by the New York Center, and as we progressed, I got to see the lights of Atlantic City, New Jersey. And here's the Atlantic City Airport. Once it got dark out, I had a nice view of Salisbury, Maryland. Just because I've left New York TRACON's airspace doesn't mean I'm going to stop looking out the window. I'm not letting flight attendants with beverages and snacks distract me from this view of Newport News and Norfolk. There goes Myrtle Beach down there, and as we got closer to Florida, all I could see was the moon with those clouds down there.
Tonight we'll be landing at runway 30 left.
It's time for our descent. The Miami Air Route Traffic Control Center descends us lower and lower until we reach the airspace of the Palm Beach Terminal Radar Approach Control Facility. Even though Palm Beach is south of Vero Beach, controllers at the Palm Beach TRACON provide guidance for flights approaching Vero Beach Airport as well as other nearby airports. We'll be making right traffic over the Atlantic Ocean tonight to runway 30 left. It's cloudy, and the window situation isn't ideal, so there really wasn't much to see out there.
I can't see out, but Palm Beach Approach Control is getting us in.
Traffic pales in comparison to traffic in the New York TRACON here, and it's late at night, so there aren't many other planes to look for. Many of the airplanes using this airspace are VFR, or Visual Flight Rules flights, and the weather is not ideal for VFR where we are right now. I don't have the audio for Palm Beach Approach Control, but I do have the audio of our flight checking in with the Vero Beach Tower. When we check in, the tower will give us landing clearance, but will inform us that we are number 2. A Piper Cherokee will be in front of us on a left base leg to our runway and will touch down before we do. Pipers are very common at Vero Beach because the Piper headquarters are here. Let's check in and land.
Vero Beach Tower, Moxie 581 on the RNAV 30 left.
Moxie 581, your number, Vero Beach Tower, your number 2, following a Cherokee left base from a 30 left, clear to land.
30 left, clear to land, Moxie 581.
As always, a very nice experience here on the Airbus A220. Always the best way to deplane here in Vero Beach. All right, everybody, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you for joining me from White Plains to Vero Beach today. Remember that if you're not a subscriber to my channel, consider hitting that subscribe button below. Thanks, everyone.